Well, we have this tremendous honor tonight. It's always such a funny term that we're going to install a rabbi, like the lights up there. And he's already so much a part of our whole team. But it's traditional that when you install your new rabbi, that the rabbi gets to choose someone who is dear to them to come and speak a few words of Torah with us. And we were beyond excited when Rabbi Westreich told us that he wanted to invite Rabbi Matt Green, who is a rabbi in Brooklyn. We all tried to leave Brooklyn. They went back, all of our kids. And Rabbi Green is a dynamic rabbi at Congregation Beth Elohim, along with Rabbi Rachel Timoner, who's just a national voice of conscience in our movement. And we're really just thrilled that you are here to install our new rabbi, and we welcome you, Rabbi Green.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Rabbi Singer, for that introduction. And truly, thank you both, Rabbis Singer, for the invitation to be with you all here tonight. Yours, as I think you know, is an extraordinary community. And I have to say, of course I was going to say that, but the truth is, being here tonight, being in this space, sitting in front of these candles, listening to you sing, watching you pray, praying alongside you, and being in this space, it's really true. It is really true. This is an extraordinary place to be. And Emanu-El has a reputation for pushing the bounds of what people think can happen in Jewish life, and also a reputation for serving a wide swath of our people. It's truly a gift to be here with you, witnessing some bit of that and celebrating with you as you formally welcome my friend, Rabbi Noah Westreich, as one of your rabbis. I'd like to begin tonight with a few admissions. First off, as excited as I am for you, Emanu-El, I'm pretty angry. I really am. I'm angry for you, or at you, for taking Noah away from the East Coast. You all get to delight in Noah now, creating Jewish meaning with him and alongside him as he grows in the congregational rabbinate. And this is, therefore, the first time that I won't be nearby, Noah, to participate in your rabbinic unfolding. Another admission is that you can imagine at a rabbinic installation, rabbis tend to traffic in hyperbole. And I'm not going to promise that I won't do that tonight, but genuinely, when it comes to Noah Westreich, there really is no hyperbole or overstatement. I promise you, every word that I say tonight is totally sincere and heartfelt. And for one final admission, Noah Westreich is the kind of person who sometimes rolls his eyes, as he's doing right now, when people say good things about him, extolling his many virtues. But I have never minded doing exactly that. So here goes. Noah and I met in the summer of 2016 when I joined him for a couple months at Temple Micah in Washington, D.C. Even before I arrived, he called me to introduce himself. I'd come to find out this is one of Noah's greatest traits, actually, the chutzpah to reach out and introduce himself to strangers, especially those with whom he wants to scheme to create awesome Jewish programming. In my case, Noah called to see if we could plan a Grinder Shabbat gathering during my impending summer in DC. Once we discussed what that entailed, he quickly nixed that plan. But what was clear right off the bat was that Noah was and is a committed Jew who understood the limits of what organized Jewish life tends to offer and craved something more for himself and for his peers. Something exciting and new, a Jewish life filled with surprise. That summer, Noah and I talked frequently about the problems facing the Jewish world, about how most of his friends could never imagine themselves joining a synagogue, about how to reinvent Judaism away from the religious and political frameworks that were aging and institutions that could not keep up with change. Everything seemed uncertain then, not unlike the current moment when so much feels uncertain about Jewish life. Except at that point, one thing. Noah did not want to go to rabbinical school. Some part of him did, obviously, but he worried that rabbinical school might force him into some box that he rejected. If there was going to be any Jewish home for him, he thought, it was going to be Svara, the queer yeshiva based in Chicago, beloved, as I know, by other clergy here tonight at Emanu-El. But despite falling in love with Svara as an organization, that yeshiva sparked a deep passion for Talmud and Jewish texts that would permeate Noah's life thereafter. That passion called out to him wherever he went. And so, looking at the basic facts, if he wanted a life that involved deep study of classical texts, sharing Torah with friends, bringing people together, it was pretty obvious that he was doomed to go to rabbinical school. Lest we think that the hard part was getting him to rabbinical school, the next step was getting him through it. His family is the ones laughing loudest in this moment, which makes perfect sense. Noah called me in his year from Jerusalem, that first year, convinced that he needed to drop out. Not for academic reasons or administrative ones, there's nothing to be ashamed of here, but because of his abiding sense of not quite fitting in. He wasn't willing to take as gospel, so to speak, the basic assumptions of the school, and his notions of the rabbinate just didn't seem to fit with everyone else's. And at this point, I want to pause in this story of Noah's unfolding as a rabbi, unwilling as he might have been. I want to pause and suggest to you that the mark, or a mark, of a good rabbi is at least some experience with not fitting in. The Jews are famously a people that doesn't fit in. And among ourselves in Jewish life, most of us feel like an imposter at some point or another. One of the biggest challenges to people even entering a synagogue today is a general feeling that a given community couldn't possibly be a place for them, especially younger people. The communal leadership and vision we need, therefore, I believe, comes from people who understand that feeling in the deepest parts of themselves. People who wonder sincerely what fitting in really even means. For those 5 years that Noah was in school, like clockwork, every December or April at the end of each semester, I could expect a call from Noah saying he was definitely dropping out of school. Maybe he should just open up a Jewish coffee shop, he suggested. Or maybe become a commercial airline pilot, which was a long dream of his. Because forcing himself to fit into someone else's definition of a rabbi was simply not in the question. He didn't know then that a place like this, like Emanu-El, might be in his future. A place that shares so many of his most firmly held values, pursues authentic Jewish meaning, and understands the need to change. Like water over rocks, those years of back and forth forced Noah to sharpen his sense of self as a Jew and as a rabbi. I watched him during that time as a friend, as a student, as an intern nearby in Brooklyn, and then in his first year as an ordained rabbi, creating unforeseen opportunities for people to learn and celebrate together as Jews. I delighted in moments of authentic Jewish connection forged purely because of Noah's authentic connection to himself, to his work, and to his tradition. Living authentically as Jews is the headline of the holiday we're celebrating tonight. The Hanukkah story is one of our greatest Jewish examples of living fully as ourselves, even as we encounter forces that would rather we didn't. And there remains a question for us in 21st century Jewish life about how to define living authentically as Jews? Should we even speak of authenticity? A word used so frequently to gatekeep and to condemn. Can we speak of authenticity when the Judaism we embody in our American Reform congregations is so non-traditional? What is authentic Jewish living when the way we live and the people with whom we live would be unrecognizable to the Jews of Eastern European shtetls or Moroccan meles? Inherent to our celebration of the Maccabees staving off the oppressive Greeks is a story that itself problematizes the idea of authenticity. The earliest sources describing this holiday tell of a historic and historical victory of a tiny band of Jews seeking religious freedom. But those earliest sources, they don't say anything about any oil. We'd have to wait 6 centuries for the Gemara to be completed, that Talmud, which you'll spend time learning with Rabbi Westreich, to hear any mention of the miracle of lights. Skeptics and scholars offer so many different hypotheses about why the rabbis invented the story of the oh-so-miraculous oil. But the point is that the beloved ritual of lighting candles, that authentic Jewish practice, was, at some point, merely a reform. What made it a good reform was that it reflected its time and added meaning to the lives of Jews. And so it stuck. But it required thoughtful, creative, self-aware rabbis to invent it, as the rabbis did all the time in the Talmud, and as I know that Rabbi Westreich will teach you. As Reform Jews, we sometimes lose sight of the fact that our Judaism is authentic precisely because it is so alive. And we rely on leaders like the ones you have here at Emanu-El to enliven our tradition, and in so doing find the truth of ourselves, some bit of Jewish integrity, which we find in reform, innovation, and change. The point is, friends, that in Jewish life today, there are inevitably so many questions about whether or not our practice is authentically Jewish. But the real question is, how do we find an authentic self in our Jewish tradition? And that question is one that I know you will answer here in this temple, and I know you will answer with Noah Westreich, a rabbi whose calling began with questions about where he belongs, and how and if he could make a mark among our people. A rabbi whose debate with himself may have only yielded further questions, but whose questions are essential. And it is therefore my great honor to install Rabbi Westreich. I don't really know what that means, but we're installing him together, and I'm lucky enough to be holding the microphone in a somewhat grandiose way. On behalf of the Jewish people, I welcome him into this community. And I pray that you find together your authentic selves in this relationship. I love this man, and I hope that you will love this man. Take care of him, and may God be with you and with him for a long time to come. Shabbat Shalom.
Should I twirl around like a light bulb? So when I got here to San Francisco 5 months and 1 week ago today, I was no stranger to San Francisco. The first photo of me in this city was from around 1996. I was around 4 years old, and I'm sitting on a wooden bench next to my sister in front of a Noah's Bagel Shop before it was bought out by Einstein Brothers. I'm around 4, as I said, and I was wearing a baseball cap with an N on it for Noah. I'm sure I bought it there. I was wearing a turtleneck, and I was squinting from the sun and getting ready to take a big bite of that bagel. I came back and forth to San Francisco many times as a child to visit family and friends of my parents. There are stories I'm told and pictures I'm shown that reveal how from an early age I liked it here. Maybe for the bagels, maybe for the nature, the people, or I don't know, the free spirit. Then as an adult, I resumed my frequent visits to the Bay Area. In my capacity as a staff member at Jewish learning retreats organized by Svara, this queer yeshiva, these retreats took place for several summers in a row before the pandemic up in Marin County at Walker Creek Ranch. But perhaps the most significant visit to San Francisco happened just under 1 year ago, at the end of January, when I flew here from the East Coast for a job interview. I was ordained less than a year before that and was teaching at a Jewish day school while Noah, my fiance, was in graduate school. My role teaching at the day school was wonderful. Adoring teachers, school spirit, consistent hours, and mostly middle school level problems. And so when I flew out to interview, I got the sense that my role as a rabbi would change dramatically. Over the course of the few days of my interview, I was brought into this grand sanctuary and toured the rest of the building before it was demolished. I met with board members, congregants, clergy, and staff, all of whom were proudly buzzing with activity. Noah was with me, and on that final morning of my trip here before heading back to the airport, I called Rabbi Beth to accept the offer to become one of the rabbis at the storied congregation Emanu-El. This evening, I'm completely overwhelmed with joy and gratitude for everything and everyone that has conspired knowingly or not to help me reach this moment. And to articulate what it is that I'm experiencing right now, I want to talk briefly about the rabbi, Dr. David Ellenson, Zichrono Livracha, whom we lost just 2 days ago. Rabbi Ellenson, Zichrono Livracha, was a mensch and a scholar who was a leader in our Reformed Jewish movement for decades. He was as erudite and accomplished as they came, truly the top of his field. What was different about studying or meeting with Rabbi Ellenson compared to many of my other teachers was me. He, probably unknowingly, disarmed me with his presence, got me to lay down that protective armor that I had up all throughout rabbinical school. He showed me that our time together learning was at once about the subject matter, much of which, I admit, I do not remember in great detail. And at the same time, as it was about the subject matter, it was about the fact that this was an encounter of one another, that this encounter was a miracle, an experience that took us out of this field that Rabbi Ellenson was a part of, was the top of, and took us into the bleachers, or the sidelines, to a quiet and more accepting place. And I'm remembering him on this occasion of my installation for the way he trained me to become a rabbi, but more importantly, the way he gently nudged me toward acceptance of this divine spark that exists in each of us and ignites every encounter with the sacred light that's really usually a challenge to see and feel clearly. Another teacher of mine, the Rabbi B'nai Lappi, would say when breaking our teeth learning a page of Talmud that the text is never about what it's about. The content of what you study is interesting and compelling, but what it's about is that we are studying it. So when we perform rituals and engage with text, when we install rabbis, when we say prayers, we do so as a service to that which is divine, that which blesses us, that which shows us love beyond any worldly matter or text. And so we gather against all odds to celebrate, look to the future, and to know and remember our past. But all we know is this moment, and for that I have to express my deepest gratitude to God, to friends and family, including my parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, and future in-laws, most of whom traveled from across the country just to be here and help ground me in this moment in my upbringing, the person that I've been all along. And I'm grateful for this congregation, the clergy, the staff, the congregants who have already, even in these 5 short months, helped me to articulate my purpose, hone my craft, and who have given great heart and soul for this sacred place. We've been through so much, and we have much to do, but for now, I give thanks for this moment, to be here as a representative of our collective heritage, and to symbolize the promise of what lies ahead when we choose to bring light into our days. Happy Hanukkah and Shabbat Shalom.